Missiles can be pretty fun. Some of them can eliminate larger enemy ships in seconds. So I decided to go over all of the different missile types to see which ones are effective against larger ships if they are used by destroyers. If you use missiles, we often have the problem that ships can carry only small amounts, and therefore we spend a lot of time resupplying them. The big advantage that destroyers have over other ships is that they can equip missile turrets, especially large ones. Large dumbfire turrets add an extra 300 to the ship's missile capacity, and large tracking turrets an extra 100. Medium missile turrets, on the other hand, increase the missile capacity of ships only by a tenth of their large counterparts. If we equip an Odysseus E with dumbfire or tracking turrets, we increase its storage for missiles to 1720 and 680 respectively. As you will see later on, these numbers are quite relaxing, since the Odysseus will have plenty of missiles left after a single encounter in many cases. Additionally, the Odysseus has the advantage of a medium dock over other destroyers. This makes the missile restocking process a bit more relaxing, because they can be restocked during fights from frigates. And in between fights, we don't need to dock them anywhere, which mostly takes some time in which the ship won't be available. Anyways, I checked the different missiles there upon for which can be effectively used with destroyer missile turrets against other larger ships. One important missile stat we can't find in the in-game encyclopedia is the NPC target range, which gives the range at which NPC and missile turrets can shoot at their targets with the respective missiles. If you are interested in the exact NPC target ranges, you can look them up in the X4 wiki. I put a link in the description. Overall, I would say that the effectiveness of the different missiles is determined by all their stats. Some are faster than others, which makes them more accurate, and accordingly they can compensate for their lower damage output. Therefore, I will show how each different missile type performs, and in the meantime, I will list the pros and cons I see with them. At the end, I will summarize all missiles and show which are usable and from which we should stay away. For the test, I let an Odysseus E fight against the Xenon K. The Odysseus was fully geared with dumbfire or tracking turrets. Further, I used Terran MK3 large shields and Heladi MK2 medium shields, split or round engines, and MK1 thrusters. To test each different missile type, I first controlled the Odysseus E myself. And if I found the used missile effective enough, I reloaded the game and let the AI control the destroyer, to see if the AI can handle the missile too. If the AI achieved satisfying results, I switched to low attention mode and took a look at the missile performance there. The results from the low attention mode I will discuss separately from the high attention mode test at the end by comparing each missile that came that far. But now let's dive into each different missile and have a look at their pros and cons. First, I will go through all dumbfire missiles, and afterwards through all tracking missiles. Most dumbfire missiles are usable against Xenon Ks. The big loser in this category is the cluster missile. Both the light and heavy version are too slow and mostly miss their target. Together with the very long reload times of 15 and 55 seconds, they are not usable against larger ships. The one plus point I could find is that heavy cluster missiles hit extremely hard if they hit. Overall, they didn't satisfy me and I can't recommend them in fights between larger ships. The dumbfire missiles, not to mix up with the missile category, dumbfire missiles, in which they are, made overall a very convincing impression. They come in 4 different types, 2 heavy and 2 light versions, each distinguished into the MK1 and MK2 versions. The heavy versions are a bit slow for my taste. At close range, they have a good accuracy, but at their maximum range, depending on the movement vector, they might miss a lot. Their damage output is stable, and even NPC pilots have an easy time with them. The light versions have a lower damage output, but they compensate for that with their high fire rate and high fly speed, which let them hit their targets reliable. Their range is a bit lower than that of their heavy counterpart, but with 7 and 8 kilometers for the MK1 and MK2 versions, I think their range is still okay. Light and heavy dumbfire missiles are doing a good job so far, and I will have another look at them in low attention mode at the end again. The Heavy Scatter Missile is the most devastating missile I found, because as soon as they are in range, they rip the enemy ship apart. But the downside is their very low attack range, which often leads to that the AI flies past the C9K many times, until it stops early enough to engage the K, or the Missiles rammed the K and obliterated it with its scatter missiles. Overall, I think Heavy Scatter Missiles are pretty fun to use on player-controlled ships, because of their devastating damage and because we should have less problems than the AI maneuvering our ship into attack range. So far, all Dumbfire Missiles except the Cluster Missile are doing a solid job, and in the Dusize E can 1v1 a C9K with them. Now let's have a look at the tracking missiles. The first one on my list I didn't test because the EMP missiles have no damage output and are designed for shutting down enemy travel engines from large distances. Guided missiles I can't recommend, because when I flew the Odysseus, I had barely enough damage to beat the C9K with the heavy variant, while with the light variant I had not enough damage output. Accordingly, the NPC pilot couldn't manage to take down the C9K neither. The light Heatseeker and the light smart missile have both the same problem. Both have good fire rates, but low damage output per missile, which makes them exhaust their missile storage before the C9K is destroyed. On the other hand, their heavy counterparts had good damage output, but both were slow, and the NPC pilot was only able to destroy the C9K with the heavy smart missile. Besides that, the heavy smart missile convinced through its ability to actively aim for the C9K surface elements. Because of the missile's overall good performance, I will later check if it also performs in low attention mode. The only other missile type where I have observed the ability to aim for surface elements is the Swarm Missile. Both the heavy and light versions are quite effective in ripping off surface elements from the C9K. With the heavy variant, both me and the NPC pilot were able to destroy the C9K, with plenty of missiles left. With the light variant, I was able to destroy the C9K, but I didn't test if an NPC pilot could manage it too, because I exhausted most of my missile storage and I really don't want to use a missile that I have to restock after every fight. So I dropped the light missile from further tests. The heavy swarm missile I put on my list for the low attention mode. The light Disruptor Missile is supposed to shut down enemy engines, but with an NPC target range of 5 km and nearly no damage output, I see no reason to test if they can shut down engines to immobilize enemy ships. So other missiles can hit the ship more easily. Normally, at a range of 5 km, most missiles don't have any problem to find their target anymore. Therefore, going full damage should be the better option. At last, we have the Interceptor Missile. The very high NPC target range and its high fly speed makes it possible to destroy enemies from very large distances, in case we are willing to spend a large amount of missiles to just fight one enemy down. As you can guess, the Odysseus was not able to destroy the C9K with them, because of the low damage output per missile. Now we have only the test for the low attention mode left. For those missiles, with which an NPC pilot was able to destroy the enemy C9K. When we let a single Odysseus E fight the C9K in low attention mode, we see that only the heavy smart missile is doing observable damage. When we increase the number of destroyers against the K, we need 2 to 3 Odysseus E equipped with heavy smart missiles to destroy the K. When the Odysseus is equipped with other missiles, we see that even 5 Odysseus are too few to inflict damage. As the results show, the heavy smart missile is the most reliable type of all. It is the only missile that inflicts serious damage to C9Ks in low attention mode, without us having to field absurdly high numbers of destroyers. Further, the smart missile convinces in high attention mode through its ability to actively aim for surface elements, and by its damage output. Overall, the heavy smart missile is an effective weapon to destroy C9Ks. If you fight in high attention mode, all kinds of Dumbfire missiles do a good job. If you don't care about coming extremely close to the enemy, the heavy scatter missile is a good way to burst them away. Last, I want to mention again the Interceptor Missile, because of its high range, which might be useful in some special cases. I hope you find the information about the different missiles helpful and that you can put them to use. Until next time.